Assalamu alaikum. Continuing, chapter 1, section 4, making rational choices. So to trust a specific source of knowledge implies that one has made a choice, conscious choice, between all the different sources of knowledge available. And as I have been conditioned to think rationally, I therefore choose to put my trust in what seems to be the most logical. Here you have to understand by logical, you have to keep in mind that I have been formatted for years, for at least a decade of scientific training. So to be rational or logical can, for example, mean that my action coincides with my words, like simple logic, common sense logic. So by following these common sense rules, it is obvious that any person or institution that trade the moral principle to gain votes or market shares will lose their credibility. To give an example here, when I converted initially, when I became Muslim, after the first few weeks, my new Muslim friends took me for dinner and we went in a restaurant and they asked me an awkward question. They asked me, what do you think of the Israel or Palestine situation? And I was still a young Muslim. I didn't care about what happened in Palestine. So I answered, okay, it's complicated. And they told me, what? So I said, okay, it's complicated because the conflict has been taking place for so many years. It's hard to see who's right, who's wrong. And that's really me as a new Muslim not caring at all about what happened in Palestine, not knowing what happened in Palestine. And now, if I think of it, I was really naive. You just have to look at numbers. Like in school, they ask you to think rationally, to think materially. So, okay, just look at numbers. Who controls the energies? Who controls the seas? Who controls the food supplies and who doesn't? Who kills and who's being killed? Who's rich and who's poor? Who has a house and who is displaced? And then it becomes obvious. The genocide is obvious. So you just have to think rationally. You don't have to look into conspiracies and others. You just have to see even numbers, how they are. So continuing. To be scientifically speaking, coherent in my choices also requires me to follow that which has the highest probability of happening. So to judge by what is evident and avoid any suspicions and unfounded superstitions. And here you might ask, how do you distinguish between unfounded superstition and belief and religion? Well, we'll come to this later, but in brief, the difference is the ground, the argument behind it. What are the evidence behind that tells you that this belief or that superstition is true? Remember, as a scientist, everything is questionable, and same with religion. You should be able to question. I'll come to this in an instant. So these last conditions require introspection, as well as questioning of one's entourage. It may be that my closest friend is misled, while the person I despise is actually right. And here I can give two anecdotes. I remember once, it was before I was Muslim, I was living in a dorm called Hawkins at my university. I remember one day I was sitting in my room. It was a single room. I had my high-end laptop. It's like a gaming style laptop. I just bought a Dolby Surround 5.1 just for one single room. And I was really happy with it. It's not, now you can think it's not much, but when I was at that time, it was the best I could have. And I was really thinking of myself, like, how can life be better than that? And okay, I was going to watch my favorite show. I started, the sound was perfect, the condition was good, I was feeling good, happy. And the fire alarm starts. Like, oh, I have to go down. And it's a huge building, so you have to imagine thousands of students going down all at the same time, gathering outside. I met with my friends. And one of my friends, he was not really even a close friend. It's a person that I used to look up on, to be honest. I was quite arrogant. That person came and then comes to me, is like, oh, it's a fire alarm. It should be someone, maybe a fire is taking place. Have you prayed that your room is safe? And I was like, what? Have you what? Because I was not religious. Faith or religion was the least in my mind, the last thing I would think in my mind. So like, why do you come to me? Like, we don't even talk during the day. Why do you come to me at night during a fire alarm and ask me if I pray for my room to be safe? Like, there's 1,000 people living in here. What's the probability of me having my room damaged? And like, okay, I just dismissed him, and I went in the room. I went like after the fireman checked, everything is cleared. You can go up in the room, and that guy followed me. I don't even know why he followed me. I entered the room. It's like, okay, come in my room. And then in the room, so there were no fire, but it turns out someone in the building hung his clothes on the sprinkler, and it broke, and it started flooding the room. His room was flooded, and it was the room right above mine. His room was flooded. The water seeped through his floor, through my ceiling. The ceiling got soaked, and a piece of the ceiling fell right onto the computer, my high-end laptop, what I was so proud of. Everything was shut off because of a short circuit. And I got so nervous. I got really mad. Like, how can it be? How can it be? How can that guy make such a mistake and I suffer from it? So anyway, it was really funny to see how that person that I used to look upon was actually true. I should have prayed for my room to be safe. I shouldn't have dismissed him for this idea. He was true to himself. He wanted to be sincere with me, and I just dismissed him. I didn't realize that I was wrong even after the incident. For weeks I was mad, and I still used to look upon him. But now, as a Muslim, as someone who cares more about others, now I look back and I regret what I've done with him. It is someone whom I should have trusted, whom I should have taken as a close friend. Why? Because he was sincere and he shared something that was true to his heart with me. That's one. I have a second example. Again, before I was Muslim, in that same building, Hawkins, I took the elevator, and within the elevator with other people, other students, and one person in particular was looking really shy, just press on the button and stay on the corner, not really looking up, down, not really looking at you. And I just come from outside being with my friend, and I was like, yeah, I'm good, I'm better. And I look up on him, he was like, who is this guy? He's so shy, what can he achieve in his life? And okay, and I continued. Again, I was quite arrogant. And then I left. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know where he was going, where he was coming from, nothing. I just remember having this impression in my mind of me being better than him, just by the way he carried himself. And then, a few months later, maybe a few even years later, I convert, for whatever reason. I started going to the mosque, I started praying, and it turned out that person was the imam of the mosque. That kid, that shy little kid in the elevator, was the one who was leading me in the prayer. He was Hafiz al-Quran. It really shows that judging people by their appearance is a mistake. SubhanAllah, may Allah forgive me. So again, it may be that my closest friends is misled. The person I despise is actually right, actually better than I. So in order to adequately choose which person deserves my trust, I first need to learn about that person. And in this aim, an experience must be shared with that person, either directly, for example, during a road trip or a joint study project, or indirectly. Here to give you, again, examples of encounters. I used to have really close friends with whom I met not only in the lectures, like every day, but also outside of the lectures. We used to get coffee together, we used to do sport together, and so on. And once I used to live in in West Lafayette, in Indiana, in the middle of Indiana. So it's like in between Chicago and Indianapolis. And I had to take the plane to Chicago to go to France and to come back. And I needed someone to pick me up from Chicago. So I asked my closest friend, can you pick me up from Chicago, which was, 2.5 hours drive? And he was like, no way. 2.5 hours, one way, 2.5 hours, the other way, 5 hours total. I won't do it for you. And he was one of my best friends. And for some reason, I went to the mosque. I had my new other set of friends. And I told this to one of the person. The person said, sure, was like, sure, I'll take you. I'll find something to do in Chicago. No worries. So I was like, okay. And indeed, I left. I went back to France, and I came back, and the guy was here, waiting for me at the Chicago airport, the O'Hare airport. And I was impressed, like how genuine these new friends were to me. And they were not asking anything in return, just giving up. They saw me as a new convert. I was like, okay, you need to help him. Maybe you need to strengthen his faith. Just give it to him. Give time, give help, whatever. And they give. And it did. It made a huge difference. So continuing. So you have to share something with the person in order to trust them. Like that person who drove me back from Chicago, I knew I could trust him. Why? Because he sacrificed so much for me. So either you share something with them, like at that road trip, for example, or indirectly by cross-referencing multiple stories, recounting the character of this person. That's if you don't have access to the person directly, like the Prophet ﷺ, you cannot live with him. You can only rely on what people have said about him, about some of his sayings that have been reported through the chains of narrations. That's all what you have. But it's huge. It is a lot. You will see later. So in either case, it is the altruism and the consistency taken in given situation that determine one's trustworthiness. The more a person acts in a materially disinterested way, and the more respectful of himself and of others around him he is, the more I would be inclined to listen to him. So in relation to my spiritual quest, I'm looking for a type of spiritual guide and I'll use this principle to choose who to follow and whose teaching to follow.